Hello, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mind the Mental Monday. Glad that we're able to come back for yet another Monday, another Mind the Mental Monday. It's been a wonderful day for me because my grandbabies moved closer, and so they're hanging out with us this week as their parents prepare their new home. So, my husband and I are very, very excited to have them closer and to be able to kind of put our hands on them and love on them, more in person. So we're super excited about that. So, they're not home right now, but I don't know, they might come home like while I'm doing this broadcast. So I'm just going to give you a heads up. You might hear something. And if you do, sorry about that, but not sorry. So, all right. So we're going to get that out the way. But thank you so much again for those of you who tune in regularly to Mind the Mental Monday. I really appreciate your tuning in. I appreciate that you take the time to not only listen to the content, but you take the time to also comment. So that really means a lot. Commenting, sharing, all of that means the world to me because I do believe that this is a part of my purpose, that my God-given purpose is to shed some light about being proactive about our mental health and really noticing or recognizing our mental health as health, as a part of our overall health, and as a part of the need for us to continue to have discussions in our homes, in our families, in our faith communities. We need to be talking about this topic. So, I am also a life coach, and so if there are things here that are helpful to you and you really want to go further, you need sort of some personal, would like some personal curated mind coaching to sort of help you in your journey to shape your mindset into one that will be productive and successful, then inbox me, contact me. I'd be happy to work with you. All right. All right. So, tell me where you're tuning in from. Tell me, you know, tell me what's one of your favorite mind the mental topics so far. Let me know. Put it in the chat, put it in the comments. Um, just let me know. I'm curious. And while you're letting me know your like one of your favorite episodes of Mind the Mental Monday, also let me know what are some topics that you think would be interesting or some topics that you might want to discuss yourself. What are some things that you might be going through that is impacting your mental health that you want to dive deeper into? I'd be interested in hearing that as well. So, I'm going to start off tonight by being transparent as I normally try to be on how this topic came into being. So last night, after everyone had gone to bed, I had kind of, I cleaned up my kitchen and kind of straightened up downstairs, and um, I was actually in a pretty good mood, but I also had like just some anxiety happening in my body, and I couldn't really go to sleep. Um, and so I went upstairs with the idea that I would just do some journaling, listen to some quiet music, and just kind of get some things out. And so in other episodes, I've talked about the usefulness of journaling. For some, it doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but it does work for some. And it works for me, particularly when I have like a lot going on and I have a lot like sort of packed in up. in my head and my brain feels like it's about to explode because there's just a lot going on in different areas of my life, and it feels overwhelming. And so, so I did all the things downstairs. I went upstairs, and just became like really agitated, just really agitated and just annoyed. And, I'm at that phase in life. It could be, menopause is real and these symptoms are real. And that's a part of mental health too, ladies, that are in that phase of life. So I really, like, I couldn't have just gone to bed like that. I couldn't have really gotten to sleep, and I probably wouldn't have gotten a good night's rest without taking some time to just kind of calm down, slow down a little bit, and just sort of like breathe and just, get out the things that were inside of me. And so I did that, and I found myself, I was listening to some just meditative music as I was doing it, and just like I just found myself writing feverishly all these things. But by the end of everything that I had poured out and written, in the midst of what I had written, and this was not something that I planned, but in the midst of the things that came out was tonight's episode. And I had no idea, honestly. And I'll be transparent again. I mean, there are literally times where I don't really know what I'm going to talk about Monumental Monday. But for like it might be an hour before I get on here, and it's like I get like a download, and it's like, that's it. Right? That's not all the time, but that does happen. And there are times where I've planned to talk about something, but then like the Holy Spirit says, no, you're going to talk about this. And I'm one that believes in the Holy Spirit. I believe in following the lead of the Holy Spirit. And so I believe that this is Holy Spirit led, because the stuff that I was writing, I just really didn't plan on it like that. Like it just all came bubbling out. And I started thinking about, in the midst of what I wrote, I thought about this quote that by Marianne Williamson, that I think is a very, very popular quote, that a lot of people quote. And I'm going to read it because I want to make sure I don't mess it up. But it says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And as I wrote that, because, and I think the reason that it came out for me is that I think that I actually have some of that going on, sort of fear of not necessarily success itself or my definition of success, but fear of um, what will be required as a result of the success. So there's a scripture um, that says, to whom much is given, much is required. And so that required part, I almost titled this something else. I almost titled this um, something about the what is required. But the spirit said, no, I want you to go the fear, scared of success route. So that's what I did. But to whom much is given, much is required. And it is that required part, I think, that very often causes us to fear success. Um, and so, and sort of, what will be needed? What will I need? What will be needed of me to fulfill what is required for all that I'm given? So tonight I want to go over some reasons that one might fear success. But after I go over the reasons that somebody might fear success, I want to go over some ways that to get through that requirement part. That, when you are given much, you also have more is required of you, and fear of the what is required, what will be required of me if I fulfill the thing that I'm really purposed to do. And if I, if I am provided, given much, um, what am I going to do with that required part? Because I think that part is something that a lot of people fear. What exactly will be required if I do this thing, if I go full throttle into this thing, what is going to be required of me? And do I have what it takes to be fulfilled in it and to do it? All right. So let's look at some reasons why people might be scared to succeed. One reason is that people might fear increased expectations. Again, it is the what is required. Um, because the higher you go, the more will be expected of you, required of you, the more people are going to look to you to bring more to the table, so to speak. And so a lot of times we do fear the expectation that comes as a result of success. Um, Another reason that we might be afraid to succeed is fear of change. And change is a big thing, right? Change is, we don't like to change. I think especially the older we get, the more difficult it becomes to change. And the reason for that is, as I explained in a presentation that I did a few weeks ago, that the way that our brain works is that our brains like patterns. Our brains like familiarity. And once you set your brain on a certain pattern, a certain way of thinking, that's the way your brain wants to go all the time because it is now comfortable. That's what it's used to. And so change then requires not just a one time, oh, I'm going to do something different this time. No, it requires consistency in the change. It requires you to do something with discipline and consistency over and over and over again so that it trains your brain into a new pattern, a new way of thinking, and then your brain then becomes comfortable with that pattern, and then it keeps going. Um, and so when you have had a certain mindset for a long time, when over the years in your life, you keep telling yourself, "Oh, I'm not," what you can't do. You keep telling yourself that you're not good enough. You keep telling yourself, you keep feeding your brain the things that you can't and that you're not and that you won't. Then you are going to be less susceptible to change. But change is a good thing because change also means growth. Change um, means that you are able to do something different. You're able to learn a new skill. You're able to do something that you've never tried before. Change, in order to do anything to grow, you must change. Like change requires growth. This is something, a quote from me, from yours truly, and my former, in my 11th grade English teacher. Um, I came up with the first part, and then so I said one must grow to change. And then he said, and one must change to grow. So one must grow to change, and one must change to grow. When you are stagnant, when you are just sitting in the same position, when you are just Um, when you just become comfortable in whatever it is that you're doing, you are not going to grow that way. And so, in order to grow, you must acknowledge, first of all, that maybe you have a fear of change, that because you don't know what the change is going to bring. It's all about the fear of the unexpected, or not fear of the unexpected, but fear of the unknown. And so, if you're in fear of what is unknown, then a lot of times you're not going to take that step forward to make the change that you need to grow. But I want to encourage you to make the change, to so that because you will never know what you are capable of until you try, until you put that one foot in front of the other. You will never know if you're capable of handling the change. And 9.99 chances out of 10, you're going to find out that you are indeed capable. And so, as Marion Williamson said, it's not so much that you fear that you're inadequate, but you fear that you are powerful beyond measure. And we're going to come back to that part a little bit in that quote. Um, Fear of losing identity or belonging. We all know that when we make changes, when we decide that we want to change in order to grow, when we decide that we want to, um, do something different so that we might better ourselves, there's going to be a certain segment of people that we might have surrounded ourselves with that's not going to be happy about it. And that is even going to try to discourage you. And so we fear losing our identity. We fear losing our belonging to the people that we become attached to. But the reality is that there are some people that we just gonna have to cut. Now, I don't mean physically cut. I don't mean to go like go take a knife or something and cut somebody. That no, I mean cut them off. Like cut them loose from your life. Because anybody who really cares about you, who really wants to see you succeed, is going to be your biggest cheerleader. They're not going to try to dampen your spirits for what you're trying to do as you're trying to grow, as you're trying to go further than you are right now, whatever that is for you. Uh, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. Um, you know, it is a fear, and that's a part of a fear of change as well, that we fear that we're gonna lose those who are closest to us. But if those that are closest to you don't have the same desire to grow, don't have the same desire to change, they're just content being stuck in the same old way, the same old muck. They find just being just the same way that they've always been for the last 50 years, then you don't need to be around those kind of people anyway. You cannot grow and you cannot effectively change by keeping company that is unwilling to change themselves, by keeping company with people who don't want to grow. And that's just the bottom line. That's not being bougie. That's not being snotty or snobbish. That's not any of that. It just means that you're going in a different direction than they are. And if they cannot handle that you're going upward while they're just comfortable just going at the same pace, not even making a lateral move, not moving forward, not moving backward, but just stuck, just stagnant, then those kinds of people will tend to bring you down and tend to wear you down to a point where you don't pursue those things that you were indeed purposed to do. And so don't ever let anybody strip you of your purpose. Because there are those who wish that their purpose was at the same level as yours. But when we're talking about purpose, there are no levels really to purpose. Everybody's purpose, the purpose that is put into everybody before they're put in the womb is important in this earth, right? And so we have to stop comparing ourselves, comparing our purpose to somebody else's purpose. Their purpose is theirs and yours is yours. But if they're trying to keep you from yours, then they need to get cut off. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're going in a different direction, and that's okay. Yes, it's scary to lose people that maybe have been your friend for years, but I'm going to tell you the truth. If they are not riding hard to see you climb the ladder, to see you be successful, and they're not doing the same thing, they don't have the same mindset, they're not your friend. They're not. So be honest with yourself and be willing to cut that loose. All right. So another reason that we fear success is fear of attention or visibility. Because any famous person, now of course, I've never been famous and don't want to be famous. But when I think about people who are ultra famous, like they literally cannot go anywhere in the world without throngs of people clamoring after them. I just think of how tiring that might be. No matter how much money they might have and how much success and how much fame, it still seems to me in a way like being imprisoned, right? And so there might be people who think that they're whatever they have is so good that they know that it's going to catapult them into arenas that is going to cause them to become famous. And when a lot of times when a person becomes famous, it also comes with that mark on their back because as soon as you get a little bit of something, there's going to be somebody in your life who is going to try to pull you down. Mark my words. It's a fact. And so there might be people who are afraid of that, but know that when God puts something in you to carry out, He's going to give you what you need to handle all the things that you need to handle in that space. So don't fear, but do operate in your call, operate in your purpose unapologetically. And there are going to be people who don't understand it even. There are going to be people who are going to say, "Why are you doing that?" They don't need to know, right? As long as sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes when things that God might call me to do, I'm like, God, why are you telling me to do that? I don't necessarily understand it, but I'm one who trusts God with everything. So it's like, okay, God, I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna follow your spirit. I'm gonna do what you called me to do. Um, but there are times where that can be fear producing, right? Where, you can and fear can cause you to become paralyzed in a way that you don't move forward in the thing that you have been called to do, and if you don't move forward, guess what? Somebody else going to do it, going to come and do the very thing, the very idea that you had. Somebody else is going to come along and take and because they don't fear what somebody else thinks, because they don't fear losing a friend, because they're willing to stand 10 toes down in their purpose. They're going to just carry it on, and then you're going to be sitting there like, man, I had this idea, 5, 6 years ago. So, um, I want to encourage you to not be fearful of taking, of stepping out on faith and doing something different, doing something that you know that you have inside you that's just bubbling up for you to do. Imposter syndrome is one that's talked about a lot, where you sort of, um, struggle with your self-worth and you feel that you don't deserve success. You feel you're undeserving of it. Um, let's nix that right now. Because if you are undeserving of it, who's to say what does that even mean? Who determines who is deserving of success, right? Like who determines that? You determine that. You know your self-worth. Walk in it. Walk in your self-worth. And don't let anybody try to deter you from the direction that God has you moving in, right? Move in the direction that you are called to move in, and don't view your own self as undeserving. Don't view your own self as incapable. Don't view your own self as less than. Because if you view your own self as that, as being incapable and less than, and all of those sort of negative kinds of things, it shows. It comes out in your mannerisms. It comes out in how you relate to people. It comes out, and people can see it. People see that fear in you, and sometimes they take advantage of that as well. So you have to be the curator of your own mindset about you. And you have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt your worth. Um, Others are fear of sacrifice, fear of what might have to be sacrificed in order for you, depending on what you are called to do, depending on what your idea of success is. There are going to be sacrifices that you're going to have to make. Sometimes people have to go smaller before they go bigger. Right? There are lots of people who are now like literally billionaires who at some point, lived in a car. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but I'm saying um, that there are sacrifices that you have to make along the way in order to accomplish the goals that you have set forth before yourself. And you have to get real with yourself and get real with, am I willing to make the sacrifice or am I not? That's a conversation that you have to have with you. Are you willing to sacrifice a larger salary because you know that the steps you're taking is going to get you to ultimately to the bigger one? Are you willing, to sacrifice the size home you live in? Are you willing to downsize a little bit in the meantime in order to get to the larger place? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice to get to where you are called to be? Um, Fear of failing after success. How many people now, you know, a lot of people who have reached some kind of success also have had some kind of failure in the midst. Some that we know about, some we don't. Pinky Cole is one example who recently, she's she started the Slutty Vegan food chain. She's my homegirl from Baltimore. She's also my fellow Clark Atlanta University alum. Um, and she recently, talked about the fact that she recently had, for 40 days, had to like turn over ownership of her business, right? She might have looked at that as a failure, but what she did instead was she learned from that, and she learned what she needed to do to reverse that situation. And so now she owns her business again. But for about a month and a half, she was not in ownership of her business that she started. And so there might be times that we we get successful and then we think, well, but if I get too successful, what if, right? There's so many people who have been bound by the what if. I want to break that chain right now because what if? Because the what if is usually people usually look at it in the negative. What if I don't? What if I can't? What if you do? What if you can? What if you changed your lens? What if you cleaned your lens and saw a little bit clearer that if I put forward the effort to make the changes that I need to make the sacrifices that I need to make, maybe, just maybe I can. Maybe I can. So let's get out of the what ifs, right? The what if I can't? What if I don't make it? What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not smart enough? What if I'm not, all of the things that we plague ourselves with. I've done it. And I still do it. There are aspects of my life that I want to grow in, and at the same time, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I've never seen myself in this capacity. I've never seen myself as, as a business owner. I've never seen myself making, X amount of dollars. Like I've never seen myself. I couldn't even imagine myself doing that. But we need to start imagining that we can. And not only that we can, but that we will. Um, Guilt about outshining others. That is, that's one that I think that can happen with us a lot of times because we don't want to appear that we we think we're better than somebody or that we think we're more than somebody, right? What we're really saying is that our concern is about what other people think or what other people will think about us. And I've talked about this ad nauseum on here because that's the thing that we talk about that happens with us a lot is what if I come off as, you know, whatever. And if, when I become successful, and not everybody's gonna be able to go with you. Not everybody's going to be able to ride with you to your level of success. Not everybody's going to be able to do it. And yeah, there are going to be people who are going to try to put it on you. Oh, you've changed. Well, yeah, I've changed. I've changed for the better. I'm growing. The problem is not that I've changed. The problem is that you're not. That is the issue. That is the real issue here. The issue is not me. The issue is not the fact that I've grown a successful business. The issue is not that I've, you know, curated some, X amount of followers or, in social media space and all this kind of thing. That's not the issue. The issue is that you view, my success as a negative change when you are the one who made a conscious decision to stay where you are. Well, that's not my fault, and that's not my issue. So let's break that chain right now. Somebody's always going to say something about you, right? I've said this before. People going to think what they think. But a lot of times when people make comments like that about, well, ever since you got whatever, whatever, you changed. Well, I'm supposed to change. I'm supposed to grow. I'm not the same now at 56 that I was at 36. What kind of foolishness would it look like for me to be still in the same place I was at 36? At 56, I've got 20 more years of knowledge. I've got 20 more years of experience. I've got 20 more years of life on this earth. I should not still be at the same place. You have to determine what that place is, right? Nobody else can determine that for you. And so, the don't worry about feeling guilty about outshining others. Right? There is enough for everybody to shine. It's literally multiple billions of people on this earth that any one of us can touch in a positive way. There's no need to be jealous of somebody else and what they're doing. There's no need to look at somebody else and think that they're doing more. No, what are you doing in the play in the space that you're in? Don't be concerned with what other people are doing in the space that they're in. What are you doing? Shine your light. Shine it brightly without fear and worry about somebody else going to say, "Oh, she thinks she all that." Yeah, I am. I am all that. Just like you. You're all that too. You're made in the same image, the image of the same God that I made in. Like you know, you just need to see that about yourself. You're all that too, right? All right. And then the last thing is an unclear definition of success. You, we all have to determine and define for ourselves what is success. What does that look like? What does success look like to you? What is it? What would it mean for you to be successful? What does that look like? Is success to you mean that you have the dream career that you always wanted? Does it mean that, you're making at least six figures? Does it mean that you're a millionaire? Does it mean that you're an entrepreneur? Like, what is your definition of success? Does it mean that you get to help people on a daily basis? You get to support people who can't take care of themselves? You get to protect people who can't protect themselves? Like what is your definition of success for you? You cannot base the definition of success for you on somebody else's definition of success for themselves. What is successful to somebody else may not be what success is for you. So you are the one who will need to determine that. All right. So those are just a few reasons why people might fear or might be scared to succeed. So I'm just going to run those down one more time. Fear of increased expectations, fear of change, fear of losing identity or belonging, fear of attention or visibility, imposter syndrome, fear of sacrifice, fear of responsibility, fear of failing after success, guilt about outshining others, and an unclear definition of success and what that means for you. So those are some reasons that people might fear success. So as I was doing my exercise last night, um, going back to the quote from Marianne Williamson, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And as I went on this sort of journey to sort of better understand that, which then led me to the scripture that says, "To whom much is given, much is required." It is that requirement piece that I think can be the most scary to people about succeeding, whatever your definition of success is. So, what do I need to do to fulfill the requirements? And so the first thing that I jotted down here was to pray and ask God. Ask God for what you need. First of all, okay, when God calls you, we've all heard the quote, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Whatever God is calling you to, whatever God has purposed in you, He is going to give you what you need to be able to carry it through. It is up to you to trust that. It is up to you to honor that. It is up to you to walk in that unashamedly and without fear. Fear not. Be encouraged, right? Um, so pray. Prayer works. And when you pray about things, the Holy Spirit will lead you in such a way that you will understand what the requirements are, and you will do what you need to do to gain the ability to do it. So even if that means having to go back to school or having to learn a new trade or whatever the case might be, the resources will be there for you to be able to do that. The second thing, once you pray and ask God about it, um, wait and to hear from God. And your wait is not a just sit and do nothing kind of wait. When you're waiting on God, it is a productive wait. It is yes, take the time to like sit still and take the time to be silent. Have your own personal silent retreat with God. But it is an active wait of, okay, while I'm really waiting to hear from God about a specific direction, I'm going to read what I need to read about this area that I feel like I'm being called to. I'm going to learn all I can about it. I'm going to start to think about what it might look like as I'm moving in this direction and what are some things I need to put in place in order to be able to do it. Like it is an active wait. The third thing is to be obedient, to do it, to do it. It's do it scared. That's another quote. Can't remember who said that first. So many people have said it. So I don't know who came up with it, but yeah, do it scared. Because the only way that you're going to be able to get rid of the fear is to do it, is to challenge yourself and to do it, and then to look back and realize, man, all this time I let fear stop me from moving forward. And all this time I could have done it. I could have done this a long time ago. I knew how to do it. I knew how to do it back then, but I was just afraid that I didn't. And I just sat and just didn't do anything. Don't just sit and do nothing, right? It is an active wait. Um, and then the fourth thing is to get organized. This is really a huge part of the reason that I had to do this sort of journaling dump last night, because in all the areas that I am um, have things to do, there's stuff to do for work, there's stuff to do for church, there's stuff to do personally. There's just a lot of just different categories of stuff. And if you're not organized, it is really difficult to kind of really get all the things done that you need to get done. But if you kind of list them out and you kind of prepare yourself for the week, knowing what you have to do, being able to see it on paper or on your computer or on your phone or whatever, however you keep your task list, um, you need to be organized. Some people have different notebooks for the different areas of things that they do. Um, keep task lists, and then also with not with that task list. Now assign those different tasks to different buckets, right? There's the do now bucket. There are those things that, okay, I need to get this done. Like I need to get it done right now. But then there are things that's like, this is not quite as urgent. I can do those later. Put those in that bucket. Then there's the delegate. Maybe there's some things that you can delegate to somebody else to take care of as you're working through the things that you're working on. And then the last bucket is eliminate. There's some things that we just need to eliminate, that we just need to say, you know what, I'm not doing, like, I don't need to do this. This is not really something that I'm really being called to do. It's a nice thing. It's a decent thing to do. It's a thing I enjoy doing, but do I really have to, like, is this really a burning part of my call, of my purpose? Nah, I'm gonna toss that one. Um, so pray and ask God, hear from God, be obedient to God, and then get organized. The fifth thing is do the work. Do the work, you know, and set up small chunks of things to do in those blocks of time. One of the ways to get organized also is to maybe set aside blocks of time during the day, during the week, during an hour or 2 hours. Like, do chunks of time to and plan your work such that it's in small chunks that you're able to accomplish and do the small chunks, right? Do the work. But then once you do the work, celebrate your accomplishments. Celebrate, yes, I got these things done. I can do this. I just proven to myself that I can do this. I can. It's not a what if I can't. It's a yes, I can, right? And then repeat. Just keep repeating that. And then what are you teaching your brain? You're now putting your brain in the cycle of pray and ask God, hear from God, put myself in a position to hear from God. Then be obedient, walk in the way that God told me to walk. Then get organized, you know, do task lists, put them in the buckets that you need to put them in, and then do the work. You can't get anywhere without putting in the work. It's all about action, creating your action plan, do the work. But don't just do the work. Once you do the work, once you accomplish, the small chunks of things that you need to accomplish, celebrate. Celebrate the accomplishment. Now, I'm not saying that to take all year to celebrate. I'm saying take a minute. Take a moment to just sit back and take a step back and look at what you've accomplished and say, you know what? I did that. Be proud of yourself for what you have accomplished and then put that thing on repeat. And that is 7 steps, right? And 7 is the number for completion, right? Repeat. All right. So listen, the whole point of this message tonight is don't be afraid to succeed. When you are given a purpose in life, and your purpose might change over time, you might not have the same purpose now that you had 20 years ago, right? But pray to God about what, and the other way that I came to this is yesterday in our discipleship class at our church, our pastor, who happens to also be my husband, challenged us to think about what is your purpose, to answer the question, what is your purpose? And so in my journaling, I started to think through that. And that's how I kind of came to this, to the things that I listed out that I just told you about. Um, and so I prayed, and really, really asked God. I mean, I believe that I'm walking in my purpose right now. This Mind the Mental Mondays is a part of my purpose. This is it. This is where I come alive. This past Saturday whenever I get a chance to speak with groups and do my workshops and talk about my book, The Scream Within, and really have discussions about mental health in communities that haven't necessarily embraced the need to deal with our mental health. I come alive. It's like my whole body just like comes alive and just wakes up. And so I know in regards to that, I am walking in my purpose. Um, so I pray and ask God. I wait to hear from God. I'm obedient, but you got to get organized. You got to do the work, and you got to celebrate, and then you got to repeat because your brain needs this new pattern, right? Um, and also when you do these tasks, it minimizes your anxiety around all the things that you have to do. When things are all just jumbled up in your head, jumbled up in your brain of all the things that you have to do or that you need to do or that you want to do, it is anxiety producing. It is for me at least. Like your heart starts racing. It's just like I just get so tense and just filled with tension. And so doing this kind of exercise of just a brain dump and just dumping it all out there, and being in prayer and meditation and um, just taking deep breaths, and on that sort of thing really does help to quell the anxiety. And then it helps me to sort of organize and prioritize the things that I need to get done so that I can move forward in what I'm purposed and called to do, and I can move at a higher level. I don't know about you, but I want to go higher. I'm ready to go higher. I'm ready to go higher in God, and I'm ready to go higher in my purpose in God. And I want to see you do that too. I want to see all of us do that. I want to see you go higher, right? And higher, not based on somebody else's idea of what that is, but higher based on what God has told you that is for you. All right. So that's it. That's all I got tonight. I hope that you're able to glean from this topic of scared to succeed. I hope that it helps those of you who have been thinking about something that you're called to do, have been thinking about ways that you really want to improve your life, you want to grow and just go higher in whatever your calling, whatever your purpose is, but you're afraid. You're afraid of what that, to whom much is given, much is required. You're afraid of what is required, and you're afraid that you're unable to do what is required. I'm here to tell you that not only are you able, but that God will do immeasurably above all you could ask or think if you are obedient and just walk in it. You can do it. I want to encourage you tonight. And if you need some help in that area, again, call me, utilize my coaching services, because I want to see us, all of us, succeed. And in order to succeed, you have to determine and define what success means for you. All right. Well, God bless everybody. I hope you're having a good night. Now, next week, I will not be doing Mind the Mental Monday next week. It is Memorial Day weekend, but it is also a very, very special, special anniversary for my husband and I. It is our 30-year wedding anniversary. We've been married for 30 years, y'all. It seems like just yesterday, and at the same time, it seems like a lifetime. So, I'm really excited that we've reached this milestone, and that we're still going strong. The vows we took 30 years ago, they still working, and I'm happy about that. And so I will not be here next week. And enjoy your Memorial Day holiday. I know Memorial Day tends to be a somber day because it is a day that we are remembering those who are no longer with us, but who have played a special part in our lives, either directly or indirectly, when we're talking about veterans who gave their lives. So, any veterans that are watching this, thank you for your service. And thank you for all that you do to try to keep us safe as a nation. All right. So God bless everybody. And I will see you in 2 weeks. God bless and have a great night. Good night.